أيا طالب العلم قم لا تنم، فإن الزمان انقضى وانصرم. فكن ما حييت ضنينا به، فظنك بالوقت عين الكرم. وكن حلس درسك وافرح به، تكن قائدا في غد للأمم. وبادر شبابك من قبل أن يقطع عزمك سيف الهرم.
بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. اللهم اغفر لنا ولوالدينا وللسامعين ولجميع المسلمين أجمعين. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. I'm joined today with my dear brother Abdulhameed Edge. May Allah Azza wa Jalla reward him for taking his time out to be able to come onto this platform and just share with us, his life, his journey, the obstacles, ups and downs in this path or on the path. So I ask Allah Azza wa Jal firstly and foremost to reward him for his time and to bless him and his efforts and that which he's doing and his family, and to make him and all his offspring from Ahlul Jannah al-Firdaus al-A'la, and to reward all those that were waiting patiently. Apologies for the inconveniences that were caused beforehand, technical issues, but inshallah, without any further ado, we'll begin bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. حياك الله أخي.
الله يحييك, الله يحفظكم ويبارك فيكم. كيف حالكم أخي؟ إن شاء الله hopefully you're well.
Alhamdulillah, everything's good, bro. Alhamdulillah. How are you? How's family?
Alhamdulillah, akhi, barakallah fikum. Once again, akhi, forgive me for the delays and what have you.
No, it's all good, bro.
Barakallah fikum. To begin, akhi, if you can just introduce yourself to those that don't know you, please.
Okay, طيب. Abshir. I think I've been on here before, so maybe some people are familiar. But khair, inshallah. Like you said, my name is Abdulhameed Edge, Abu Mu'adh Abdulhameed Edge. I'm from Pittsburgh, PA, in America. Some people always they always ask this question, so I'm just gonna go ahead and answer. They say, how close is that to Philly? We're about 5 hours away from Philly. Just to answer everyone who's gonna ask that question. So I'm studying right now. Alhamdulillah, I've been blessed to study in Jamiat Imam for the last 10 years, alhamdulillah, and I've been studying now my master's program with the takhasus in Aqidah wal Madahib al Mu'asira, alhamdulillah.
Allah yabarak feek, Habibi. So let's rewind it all the way back before you even get into the Jamia. Can you tell us a bit about your upbringing? How was life like before Islam? What kind of, were you like in a Christian orientated family, Catholic or agnostic, or what was your life before you reached that age where you wanted to, take that leap of faith and, accept Islam?
Yeah, alhamdulillah. So when I first became Muslim, it was probably 2009, I believe. I had just graduated high school, and I did come up in a rather religious family, Christian family, Pentecostal church in America. And it was kind of like one of those things where I was out and about. I was on my own. I was living with my grandmother. So I had a kind of an openness to looking at different religions. When I grew up in my mother's house, it was always church. There was no, other code. It was called Wahid. And so it was go there and go to Bible studies, go to church on Sundays, etc. But however, when I got on my own, I wanted to breach out a little bit more. So I wanted to not looking to change Christianity, but just I was open to have the dialogue about other religions. Because I was no longer going to Bible studies. I was no longer under that strict schedule of studying the Bible. And I had some friends who were Muslim, and I got invited to the masjid. I went to the masjid, and I never left the masjid after that.
How old were you at that time when you say you got invited with your Muslim friends, and what led you? Was it a thing like, I want to know, in your community, was it mixed? Different religions, so you were mixing with Muslims, or was it that you used to play with them, ball, basketball, football? What was that link?
Yeah, that's a good question. Actually, I didn't have any friends growing up who were Muslim in school. I didn't even really hear about Islam, to be honest. Like, I never Islam isn't widespread in Pittsburgh, maybe the way it is in other cities like Philadelphia or like maybe Birmingham or something like that. That's not the case. So I didn't really have Muslim friends until I got into high school. I was working at a place called Janigo, which would be like, Artemimi, Danube, these type of things, right? And I was working there, and that's when I met a Muslim by the name of Mustafa, good brother, mashallah, who we used to play ball together. He was like a year ahead of me in school, but we used to play basketball together. And I never really even knew he was Muslim. Like even like I was so ignorant of Islam, even the names didn't stick out to me. Like Mustafa didn't stick out to me. That was like, okay, that's he's not originally American, I guess. It wasn't like, okay, that's an Islamic name. It wasn't like,
Yeah.
it was no like type of stigma where I was, now being like prejudiced against Islam or anything like that. It just didn't cross my mind. So yeah, we were playing basketball and stuff together, and he was one of the ones who was definitely played a big part in inviting me to Islam and calling me to it and helping me out. He would pick me up for Jumu'ah sometimes. We'd get some dinner or some lunch after Jumu'ah and things like that. So, to answer your question, I'm sorry. I was probably this is high school, so I was probably graduated 17. I was probably 17 years old.
17. Okay. So, Akhi, at the time, now, obviously, are you living at your grandmother's or your mother's whilst you're with this brother and interacting with him, Mustafa? And is there any sort of conflicts, or is there any problems that your family members have seen that, you're hanging around with someone else, going to different places other than the church?
Not for my mother, we were going through something. I don't want to go too much into the details, but we were a bit separate at the point where I really didn't have much I didn't have much care of what was being said to me, or of what I was doing wrong or not doing wrong. I literally felt like I was, how it is when you're growing up in the West. You're growing up in the West, you reach a certain age, you mature, you got your work, you got your job, you're going off to college, you're going to university. It's like, okay, you got your opinion, that's cool, but at the end of the day, I didn't really care what people thought about me becoming Muslim or getting married shortly after, or anything really. It was like, this is my life, this is what I'm gonna do. And I think honestly that type of rhetoric and that type of understanding helped me even now, later on when dealing with fitna, when dealing with different issues that might happen in the community, trials and tribulations that come up. It's one of them things where, obviously now we have the blueprint, which is the Quran and Sunnah, to help guide us through it. But it was one of them things where you're living your life and you need to do things to please Allah. So I don't really care too much about opinions. Unless it's something that I'm doing something which is in opposition to that, then it's not a big deal. So I kind of had that type of rhetoric from the beginning, of dealing with things.
MashaAllah. So, Akhi, then, moving on, now you're with the brother. How long did it take you? What was that final stretch where, you've gone on with him and whatever? How long did it last for, first of all? And what was that main thing that made you, take the actual decision to actually becoming a Muslim?
Yeah, so he was one of the brothers that helped me to get involved in Islam, but he wasn't the only factor. There was a few factors, some that are from the Muslim community. But from me going to the masjid to actually becoming Muslim had to be at least 7 months, like 7 months. But between them 7 months though, it was like I was always going to the masjid. I was always praying. I was always in the community. I was even going to some classes. I was attending more classes than a lot of people in the community.
Just to clarify, sorry to cut you. So you're going to, because that's it sounds a bit more not on something that's not really that can actually happen. So you're not a Muslim at this stage, and you're going to lessons, and you're going to Jum'ah, and you're going to the masajid in congregation, and you're not a Muslim. How are you feeling on the inside? Do you feel different? What's making you carry on doing these things that are not really part of your life?
Well, it was very intriguing to me. It was interesting. It was something that I felt a connection to. Seeing how people couldn't, like when the imam first went up on that minbar and he's advising the community, and I'm sitting in the back of the musalla and I'm looking, and it's like everyone's listening and they're attentive to what he's saying, and he's directing them about how to live their life properly, and he's mentioning Quran and Sunnah for everything that backs up. For me, it was like very, very intriguing. Because everything he's saying, he's mentioning some type of ayah to go along with it. So, and this is the book in which the Muslims were believing in. So I'm like, as a non-Muslim sitting back there, I'm like, who can argue with that? The Quran is there. It's clear. It hasn't been changed. It's in the Arabic language. I, as a non-Muslim, don't even understand the language. I don't know what's going on. I don't even know what he's saying. But all I know is that he's connecting it to something which is holy for this group of people. So this was something which was intriguing to me, and I was like, yeah, I want to check that out. Because in Christianity, this was something that we didn't have. You can say a whole bunch of emotional kalam, a whole bunch of up and down, a whole bunch of song singing, jumping up and down, screaming, etc. But you don't have people saying, okay, well, we're doing this because, Jesus said this, alayhi salam, or the Bible says this. It was just, this is what we do, and it was just like almost like a culture versus a religion.
SubhanAllah, Allahu Akbar. So, wow, I mean, I'm lost for words, man. I just can't believe how you kept that for Allahu Barak, 7 months just going. So so it brings me to my next question. Do you see then that when you were growing up as a child, it was more or less something that you were enforced to practice the religion of Christianity, meaning it wasn't something that you actually had love or you saw, because of the fact that, of course, there is no proofs that come with that which you're doing whenever you, because I get this a lot with brothers that used to be Christians and they become Muslims. They're like, a lot of them were like, I was going to my priest, I was going to my the person that was advising me, and they weren't giving me any sort of proof. They were like, you just have to do it. So do you see that was the case, or was it not the case? Or
Well, yeah, looking back at it, it's like you're just going through the motions. But when you're in the situation, that's all you know. That's all you know. You don't really have people debating it. You're in a society where, I mean, if by the percentage wise, if you look at America, I think 71% attribute themselves to Christianity. So it's the majority. So you're looking there and you're like, okay, this is it's normal to say the Trinity and Jesus is God and things like that. You don't hear nothing really combating it in your circle of what you're growing up in. So it was more so like, yeah, it was normal, and also it was like, oh, this is what we do. This is our religion.
SubhanAllah. So, Akhi, if that's the case, then how has it been different since you became a Muslim? I'm not talking about now, obviously, now you studied and what have you. I'm talking about as soon as you became a Muslim and you started learning bits and bobs and you were exposed to that environment of, scholars and imams and people to go back to in the Quran and Sunnah. Was there a correlation that you can draw, or was there like a bang on, like in the line where you can just say it's completely different?
You mean like the difference between Christianity and Islam, you mean?
Meaning when you were being raised as a Christian young boy in that society, and then when you became a new Muslim, like a newborn, fresh baby Muslim, starting, on your first couple of years, what was the difference?
Like how I view society, you mean, as a Muslim,
Exactly.
a new Muslim?
Yeah, exactly.
It
And
was,
religion as well.
yeah. It's like you're getting out the echo chamber now, right? So now you're starting to see things differently. You're starting to see, how a person should live their life, how a person should dress, how a person should eat, how a person should pray and worship the Lord of the creation. So it was, for me, it was like, okay, this is just the way I'm taking on my life, and this is the way I see to be true. So everything else, it just looked like falsehood to me. It was like, okay, these, they need some dawah, and that's one of the first things I did as a new Muslim. I was like, I remember reading something about the Prophet ﷺ and how he gathered, the Quraysh, the people in Mecca around the Kaaba, and he was advising them, telling them that, nothing's going to save you on this day. Even his daughter Fatima, nothing's going to save you on this day. So I was like, this is what the Prophet ﷺ did. Okay, group message to my family. We're meeting up this Saturday. And we met up. I had the Quran with me, and in the back of the Quran, the translation, the Noble Quran, there was like a whole bunch of like text that showed like different things that the Christians believe and stuff like that, and question and answers and stuff like that. So I felt like I was ready, So I walked in my grandma's house, and what happened.
Fully armored.
Yeah, I felt prepared, but I think some families seen it was coming. They seen the way I was changing my life. They see how I was, a bit vigilant of, the way how I want to practice and live. And so some of them were already ready to excuse themselves, like, I love you, but I'm going to sit this one out.
How was that when you actually did that? What was the results?
Oh, it was horrible. It was something. I mean, you're acting upon no knowledge. You yourself don't really know how to pray properly. You yourself don't really know proper tawheed. But you're acting off of, this is something new. I love it. It's very clear to me. You guys have to just accept it. And so that was it. Was did with a little bit of shidda as well, which till today I still regret. It shouldn't be done in this way where you're trying to force people or get them to understand or critique, so directly as I was, So I look at it now like, I shouldn't have did it that way. Maybe been a little bit more lenient, maybe went 1-on-1, but not like that. It was a bit much.
SubhanAllah. That now, if you can, please just quickly advise those that are in your case or will be in the future, where they've come from backgrounds, whether it's Christianity or different religions, and they want to change their whole family or community and what have you. What's the best approach? Bearing in mind, Akhi, that you've been there and you said you regretted it, and many of us
Mhm.
have different stories, but specifically from the angle of you had a different religion, your parents raised you upon that religion, and then now you're entering Islam. How can you bring in those loved ones?
Yeah, I would say the best way, and Allah knows best, the best way that I've found was that you have to lead by example. The Quran and Sunnah is the marja, and it's supposed to change you. It's supposed to change the way you speak, the way you talk, the way you eat, the way you carry yourself. If you're doing this in this fashion, then the people are going to, your family's going to be watching, and they're going to be paying attention, and they're going to be looking. And you hear this a lot with brothers who became Muslim, where their family seen how that changed, Fulan from how it used to be from back in the day, and they have good mu'amala with them. And eventually, they start asking questions. And then that's when it opens the door for you to start giving more da'wah. Or if they get more comfortable with you, you can start giving more da'wah. But stick to Tawheed. Stick to what is basics of what our religion calls to, and explain who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is and what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from us and why he created us. The basic things. Don't try to get into debates. Debates don't usually end well. They don't usually end well, especially when you're talking to people who don't really know that much about their own religion. If you're talking to somebody who doesn't know that much about their own religion, it's easy to look like you won. But if they didn't accept Islam, or if you made them just talk down on them, I mean, did that really help the situation? And that's what you got to take in consideration, that these are your loved ones, and you need to have good mu'amala with them, and just lead by example, inshallah. Give them their
So,
huquq.
so when you say lead by example, do you mean less, speech and more action, meaning just let your action show? Is that what you mean?
Exactly. Carry yourself the way you should. Study the way the Prophet ﷺ used to be. There's a beautiful hadith, a beautiful book called Ahadith al Akhlaq from Sheikh Abdul al Badr. Beautiful book where it talks about all the different manners you're supposed to carry as a Muslim, and all the different rights you're supposed to give to others, your neighbors, your family, your friends, your children, your spouses, etc. So the Prophet ﷺ said, "I was not sent except to what? To complete good character." So this is something that is from the Sunnah. Don't think that having good Sunnah and being having good character and being a certain way is that's the way. Some people think this. They say that's the way of the Ikhwan, or that's the way of of the Hizbis. You need to have shiddah. You need to be hard upon the Sunnah. Some people act this way.
Yeah.
The best way is to be the way of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and implement that which he taught us. So when I say change and be a good role model, meaning embody Islam. Udkhulu fi silmi kafa. Enter into Islam wholeheartedly, completely, and be good to your mother, be good to your father. Ummuk, thumma ummuk, thumma ummuk. This is something which is a right, whether it be a Muslim or a non-Muslim. Then your father holds one of the doors to Jannah, as it comes in the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Then your children, and then your aqrab fal aqrab. The silat al-rahim. The ulama say the silat al-rahim, the word rahim, it's connected to ar-Rahman, Allah Ta'ala's name ar-Rahman. And the scholars say that this alone shows enough sharaf, enough nobility and high status of connecting the family ties, because Allah Ta'ala connected this action to ar-Rahman, to him himself.
Wow.
So this is something which is serious, that a lot of us have a lot of shortcomings in ghafla, and I'm speaking about myself first. We need to be better as far as dealing with our families and dealing with those around us. And if we're doing this, inshallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will open up their hearts.
Barakallahu fik, habibi. Wallah, you nailed it, man. Jazakallah khair, habibi. Nafa'Allahu bikum. So now I want to get into the stages of you being a Muslim now, and you obviously married. I believe you enlightened us that happened at early stage, or not long after you got married. Was that something easy for you? Were you accepted in the community as being a revert? Because this is something that is a very taboo topic, as people like to say, with regards to, but it happens. Sometimes the brothers that are reverts, they want to better their lives. They want to now implement the hadith of you youth, those that are able, then فليتزوج, those that are able, they
Get
should
married.
worry. That they should get married. يا معشر الشباب من استطاع منكم الباءة فليتزوج. But a lot of them, when they see this hadith, youth, the ones that are capable of doing so, then you should get married young. And they see that as like a barrier because they get judged. So what were your experiences, personal experiences, with regards to actually finding your spouse?
Yeah, for me it was easy because the markaz in which I embraced Islam in Pittsburgh was a majority African American revert community anyway. So there was a lot
Okay.
of people who were reverts. There was a lot of people who, and this is Masjid Al Awwal in Pittsburgh. A lot of people who accepted Islam, in the last, at that time, the last, 15, 20 years. So, there was it was completely okay. It wasn't like going into, the situation in which you mentioned. Alhamdulillah. And yeah, and when I came into Islam, and I realized we couldn't have girlfriends and we couldn't mingle with the opposite sex. Again, I was like, okay, tell me where to sign the dotted line, how to get married. It was simple to me. You know what I'm saying? It was like, this is what I'm embodying, this is what I'm trying to be upon. Then tell me how to do it the right way.
And how about,
May Allah make
for
it easy
those?
for us all, man.
I mean. And in terms of now, you've got married, whatever, you're a Muslim. Were there any obstacles in your way, akhi, at the time before you went to the Jamia? The obstacles that you faced, ups and downs on that path, and how did you manage to overcome them?
Yeah. So when I became Muslim, I was 2009, going to 2010. So roughly then, I was going to university. University, I was already planning. I already got my scholarship. I already had, my idea set out where I was going, which was a university called Clearing University. And when I went, I was going as a new Muslim, so I was going to stay.
What was the course,
Go
if you don't mind me asking? Now, saying
Yeah,
what
it
was
was
the
called.
course? If you don't mind me
Yeah, I was going to be a bio major, biology. So I wanted to be a dentist. Yeah.
asking?
So I mean that's long gone now. So, but that's what I was going into, and I was going to live on campus, right? So as I'm going to live on campus as a new Muslim, also somebody who is just getting married as well. I got married that October, so I was in school for only like a month and a half, and then I got married. So the trials in which you face was it was wild because you're living in a place where nobody gives no type of thought to these type of morals in which you're trying to embody yourself, which you're trying to live by yourself. So you have people who are free mixing. You're obviously living in a dorm that has, alhamdulillah, Clarion was good because it had men like on one floor, then it had women on the next floor, then men on one floor, then women on the next floor. So it was still kind of separate to a certain degree, but I mean, you see what you see, and there's no unseeing it. Then you go to school, obviously it's mixed. Gym, obviously mixed. You're away from family. You're away from your community. I'm a new Muslim. I had a Muslim community that I was connected to. You're away from them as well. Alhamdulillah, I still managed to get back every weekend for Jummah because the university was only like an hour and a half away drive. So I would drive back to the city every week. Plus, I was still working on the weekends, so that helped. But it was difficult. I mean, I left after my first year. My freshman year, I left. I told my mom that this isn't for me. This isn't what I'm trying to do. So I ended up leaving because I seen that I didn't want to be in a situation where my religion was at stake. I wasn't willing to bargain with that. So trials was very difficult, and I didn't have anything equipped. I didn't have Arabic to really read the Quran, thoroughly. I didn't have good Muslim companionship. I didn't have these different things that help you. I didn't have. So I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna do this 1 year, and I'm gonna go back.
SubhanAllah. So, okay, at the time, let's say, for example, now you've done that. What other trials came your way other than the university? I'm talking about in any sort of, from any kind of angle. What other trials or difficulties did you face at the time?
Yeah. To be honest, the only trials that I really I dealt with was two. There was the situation that I was going through with my family, meaning my mother. Me and her, we really didn't see eye to eye when I first became Muslim. Then got married. It was a big thing. And I already explained to you how I was doing things kind of crazy, So it wasn't easy to explain. Let's say that. And it's a little crazy to somebody on the outside of that, especially with things like marriage. Marriage is a big thing. in the communities, back in the Western communities, you have all your picture taken, all the family come, etc. So it was hard. That was hard to explain. Then the second trial that I had was just going to the university, and I explained that as well. Actually, I would add a third trial to that, and that is, again, getting married at a young age, where you don't have different protocol in line to help you get better. Get better as a man, get better as a husband. You don't really have an example of what to be. Meaning, because again, I wasn't living in a Muslim household. My father
Yeah.
wasn't in my household growing up, so I didn't
Yeah.
have a good example of how to be a good husband. So you're learning on the fly whilst dealing with life, whilst taking care of your wife and everything else. It was very
Overwhelming, isn't it?
it was very chaotic. It's like how they say kayfa yattaqi man la yadri ma yattaqi.
Yeah.
So how can somebody, you don't, you're just going into it, and then you're finding out as you're in it, like this is kind of crazy. You know what I'm saying? So it's very important to make sure that you lay things out, get a blueprint, get an understanding of what you're going to traverse upon before you actually traverse upon it. And me personally, I didn't do it. I was just young. I'm eager, and I want to do different things.
So how old were you, if you don't mind asking, at the time when you got married?
Yeah, I had just graduated high school, so I was 17.
17, along that's
7.
very young age. So actually, looking
Yeah.
back now, let's say
Mm.
for you now, let's say looking back, let's say for your future son, all the sons of the Muslims, all the shabab that are gonna do that, be able to take on that responsibility and that role at that young age, what would you give them? Or what, no, even better, what would you advise the fathers or those that are in position to advise them? How can they get them ready and keep them in line where they can become better husbands and better men? Because that's a
Um.
very, very important topic.
Yeah. So how would I advise fathers to get their sons ready for marriage?
Yeah,
I think it's to be just completely honest with them, upfront with them, as far as what's required for marriage. Obviously, Islamically speaking, what's required from you, what's your responsibilities as a man, as a husband, as a father, what that all entails. Next is, how are you going to facilitate it? This needs to be really direct and talk to with your sons. Yeah, we know you're young, we know you're eager, but how are you going to facilitate it? And I think fathers also need to. I mean, a lot of it comes from, honestly, even the upbringing as a father to a son. You have to teach your son how to be a man.
yeah,
As he's growing up, you have to teach him rojula. You have to teach him how to be responsible, how to be, competent, how to be understanding, how to delegate and be a leader. If you're not doing that, then honestly, the ship is already sinking before it starts sail. You
yeah,
you need to get him prepared in this aspect. Once you get him prepared in this aspect, then I think a lot more other things become more simple and easy. He could be more real with himself of where he's at and ready to get married. But I would just say to the fathers, prepare them. Yes, Islamically, morally as well, though. Economically, they have to have the right mind state when going into it. And I think we talked about this in our last lecture. We talked about
yeah,
marriage,
exactly.
right?
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
that's important. I just wanted to touch on that point specifically, because it is very important. Okay,
yeah,
now, Habibi, Abdulhameed,
yeah.
after
Come on.
that stage,
Yeah.
Barakallahu after that stage now, you've been married, were there any sort of complications with regards to you actually wanting to live a future of Islam in the area? What made you actually go? Was there complications in the city in America that made you apply? Was it just you wanted to learn knowledge? Was it easy doing that? Being a revert, you don't really have that, shoulder to lean on in terms of Muslim family. So how did that
Mhm.
happen? How did that kind of unfold for you? And then obviously
To be
reaching a stage where you're gonna go apply.
Yeah, to be completely honest, I don't feel like I really went through a lot of fitna besides those three things that I mentioned to you.
Yeah,
I would say it got difficult for me, and even when I went to go study, it wasn't because I was getting away from something. It was because I seen from day one the Arabic was something which was you had to do. As Sheikh Osam holds the opinion that it's wajib. And
yeah,
I believe that to be the closest, because you can't really worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala correctly with Quran and Ahadith except that you understand Arabic to a certain degree. But so I didn't really get out of the situation I was in to go study by way of, fitna, running away from fitna. It was more so me trying to raise the ignorance of myself in the community. So my family, even though they really didn't like me becoming Muslim, my new family was the masjid, was the community, the Muslims, the brothers
Okay.
there in the community. And this is why, fast forward later, I would say this is why the fitna became, it was so overwhelming later, the recent fitna, because that was my family. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
I didn't look at it as like, for me, it was like, okay, my family are non-Muslim, so what they say is what they say. That's from their opinions, and that's the way they live, but that's not the way I live. You get what I'm saying? So I didn't really
Yeah.
have, alhamdulillah, I didn't really see and look at any fitna besides just those three things that I mentioned to you.
Okay, so now fast forwarding, you're now, you got accepted, I believe, 2012 or 2011, right?
Yeah, I got accepted at the end of 2011 to Medina, and then I went there. And then I got accepted to Jamiat Imam in 2012.
Okay, so from 2012, everything was nice, as I say, the nice and crisp, nice and flowing. You've got all those
Yeah,
years, everything's okay with the
chill.
community and everything chill. And
Yeah,
what year did the events occur that, later on led to, the downfall of you having that friction and that bridge that was caused? And then what
yeah.
happened to you? What happened to you physically, mentally? What was the things how did it affect you as well on a personal level?
Nah, so I would say it happened almost immediately when I got to Medina. Not with the communities per se, but when I
Yeah,
got to a broader scope of Muslims, especially the English speaking Muslims. I'm very naive. I'm very naive. I'm still a new Muslim. I'm coming, I'm thinking everything's like the community in which I just left. I'm thinking everyone's upon the same understanding, trying to work and help each other out, etc. I'm not aware and privy to all the past history of fitna between brothers personally or morally or whatever,
yeah,
or who was thrown off, who's not thrown off. I'm not privy to none of that. So keep that in mind. As I'm
yeah,
coming, I seen it almost within a month or two when I'm at Jem Islamia and I see people ain't giving me salams, or people aren't willing to deal with me until they know my minhaj or know what I'm on.
yeah,
Or,
yeah,
like so and so, did they attend the lesson? I didn't see him at the lesson. Oh, okay, he's not with the brothers. He's not with the gang. He's not with this. And it's like, what are we talking about? You know what I'm saying? So
yeah,
that opened up a whole bunch, because for me, I'm like, I'm asking questions. I'm trying to figure out what's going on. I don't know these brothers you're talking about. I don't know that sheikh you're talking about. I don't know what happened in 2001. I don't know what happened in 99. I don't, and nor do I really care. You get what I'm saying? Unless it's
yeah.
something minhaji that has something that's going to directly affect me. But don't tell me about Fulan because I didn't see him in the lesson, or I didn't see him with the brothers, or I didn't see. To me, that was all corny. It was all corny. It was. You guys say corny in the UK?
I was just about to tell you, okay, for the brothers in for the brothers in the UK, you've explained it to me before previously, but for those viewing that don't know what that means, if you can just elaborate.
Yeah, corny is like it's like it's weak. It's not something that you pay attention to. It's like it's below you. It's mukhalif and muru'ah. Like it's
Okay.
not a party. Like, what is this? You know what I'm saying? Like we don't
Yeah,
deal with that. You know what I'm saying? It was like that was strange to me. But as a new Muslim, again, as a new student as well, I'm looking up to a few brothers. I'm looking up to a few brothers who have preceded me. Some of them are in to Hadith now. Some of them, and
yeah,
they're from the West, and they're from America. And some of them, are applying for magister. And some of them are, close with Sheikh Fulan or Sheikh Fulan. So me,
yeah.
I'm like, yeah, they got this little corny stuff with it. I'm gonna ignore that, and I'm gonna take the good because they're still upon sunnah, etc. Let me just,
Husnul Dhan.
I want to get to, husnul dhan. I want to get to these lessons, and I want to be benefiting to see how I'm gonna have some longevity in this run at knowledge and seeking in with the scholars in Saudi Arabia. So I kind of like turned a blind eye, and I didn't give it too much attention. So yeah, that's when I first started realizing it. But I seen it was affecting a lot of people. I seen it was affecting a lot of people, and I think I said this to you before. When I came to Medina, I thought it was a battlefield. Like I didn't know everybody was kind of like watching somebody else. It might have got maybe a little better when you got there. Maybe I don't know, but like
Yeah,
me,
it was
when I
still
got
more or
there,
less the same.
it was what?
I said it's more or less the same. It's like you're literally having to walk and look over your shoulders. You're walking on hot coal. Like you literally
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
minding
yeah.
where
That
you're
was
stepping.
Yeah, bro, that wasn't comfortable, man. That wasn't comfortable. You know, going there and then everyone's looking at you funny until they know who you are. And this is specifically what I seen amongst a particular circle. You know,
Yeah.
it wasn't like I did when I went with the Malaysian brothers, I didn't see this. When I
Mm.
went with, some of the African brothers, I didn't see this. You know, it
Mm.
was particularly with this Western type of view, and some people who also were, maybe on that type of manhaj as well. I'm not saying it's specifically Westerners. It was more. There was some people who were also, but I'm saying that's who I seen it from.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? Yeah. So
Yeah.
that was the next fitna that I started running into. But again, since it wasn't happening to me directly, I kind of turned a blind eye to it,
Yeah.
which
Of
is
course
not
you would.
correct. But I'm a new Muslim.
Yeah.
I'm studying. It don't really directly connect me, and I don't think that it's something that I need to carry that much attention about. And I just moved on. Even some of the
Yeah.
brothers who was in that circle who still didn't want to give me salams until they, went on. I didn't care. I started ignoring them. Like, it is what it is. Do
Yeah.
you?
Yeah.
I'm gonna do me over here. I'm trying to learn some Arabic, and you go ahead and do that.
Because obviously you would generally speaking, obviously, because it's not really directly coming at you. You would just be like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, if you want to do that, I'll do my thing, kind of thing. But obviously,
Exactly.
yeah. So how
Yeah,
long did that go on? Sorry, go on.
Sorry. I was gonna say, like, for me, my ideology was that I'm coming to Saudi Arabia to raise the ignorance of myself and of my community back
Yeah.
home. That's
Yeah.
who. Again, remember, I'm looking at the community. That's my family. You get
Yeah.
what I'm saying? I'm these brothers. I'm coming, and we're gonna push dawah, inshallah. That's the only way I'm looking at it. I'm not
Mm.
looking at it like, I'm coming here. I never had the methodology that I'm coming here to seek friends. I never had the understanding I'm coming here to get in a circle or get into, get with fulan or fulan, unless it was some type of benefit.
Yeah.
Besides that, it was just like, okay, if you're in the lesson, I'm gonna hang with you. I'm gonna see you. If you're in my classes, I'm gonna see you. But besides that, it wasn't something like I'm looking for a friend, really. You get what I'm saying? I'm not looking to get into the type of
Yeah.
circles. If
Because
that
you
makes
already had
sense.
friends. You already had friends. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I already had friends, and even the brothers who at the university. Me, I'm looking like it's temporary. Like, yeah, we're gonna deal with each other to a certain degree, but again, these are people back home who are family to me. So I'm going
Yeah.
to be with them majority of the time, and that's who I was talking to almost on a daily basis and dealing with. Yeah, and I'm not saying I didn't have friends. Alhamdulillah, there was brothers who I still honestly look at as good brothers. Even if they are, on the opposite side, in the fitna, they were good brothers. And may
Mm.
Allah SWT rectify all of our affairs and guide us to
Mm.
that which is right. But at the end of the day, I didn't care whether I was with you or not. At the end of the day, I'm here for books. I'm here for scholars and better myself.
Yeah, no, akhi, wallah, that's the best method to kind of have going about and dealing with these kind of situations. And obviously now I want to know in terms of like when did it actually start to affect you? When was it directed at you, and how did that, how did you manage to deal with it? Because it must have
Um,
been difficult. Did it affect you physically? Did it affect you mentally? Or was it just something you did the same thing where you just pushed it away and you just carried on with your studies?
yeah. So fast forward, it really didn't happen until like I really didn't feel no fitna tension where like I was like, oh, this is a big fitna until recently. This is
Yeah,
with the last 4 or 5 years, maybe if that, maybe 3 years. This is
yeah,
when obviously the fitna with Sheikh Muhammad, Sheikh Rabi', and the brothers. If you want to go into that, the brothers who are taking sides and positions and telling me to take sides and positions and
yeah,
sending stuff to me, retweet this, translate this, sit with Fulan. You know what I'm saying? This is when it started getting overwhelming because it's like, first off, the whole situation was a bit confusing, and that's how fitna is. That's how
yeah,
fitna is. إذا أقبلت تشابهت. This is from the statement. I believe it was I believe it was Hassan al-Basri. He was talking about fitna, and when it comes, at first it's very confusing. It's very confusing. وإذا انتهت تبينت. And it went to it leaves. Now it becomes clear. You
yeah.
get what I'm saying? So it was a situation where that situation particularly was very confusing. Every single day there was some new risala. Every single hour almost there was a new risala. People talking about something new. Some people talking about I just أنا خرجت من شيخ فلاني وهو أخبرني ب whatever, and I'm like, it got exhausting, bro. Exhausting.
Yeah.
So what I did is I opened up another WhatsApp and I left that WhatsApp alone. So now even brothers connected in Pittsburgh, really couldn't get in touch with me all like that. You get what I'm saying? It was
So
like,
you did that to free yourself from all that headache, isn't it?
yeah, I did it to get away for a little bit, because this is a time where when I first left Pittsburgh, it was just, we didn't have many students. We had one student particularly who was studying here for years. He never went back. Then we had another student who was right ahead of me, a brother named Salim. He graduated from Sharia. He was half of Quran, but he really didn't go back and give da'wah like that either. But he was, mashallah, he was Quran, Allah Mubarak. He was very good with Quran. But besides that, we didn't have nobody teaching. You get what I'm saying? So for me, the community was always, they needed somebody to teach, you know, and this was an active process for many years, looking for somebody to come there and teach. So with that being said, obviously, if there's no knowledge there, then there's a lot of jahl, correct? So, and that's not a shade on anybody, but that's just the way the situation is. So, and there's a big disconnect, even like Sheikh Sulaiman Ruhaili said recently when we went to UK, there's a big disconnect between these environments and alim or knowledge. Okay, they're very far away from it. So when that happens, obviously there's going to be a lot of mukhalafat. With that being said, and they're going to be a lot in the dark as well with certain things. So with that being said, we never really dealt with fitna in Pittsburgh. We never really got involved in any of these things that was going on, even amongst the brothers who might be locally in America. Our community, alhamdulillah, was protected from most of that. We never sent risalas or messages out regarding fitna, regarding this community. Don't go with this place. Don't sit with this person. It was always, if we did talk about it, it was very brief, and it was amongst the admin. You get me? Maybe 2-3 people. You get what I'm saying? And that was it. So that was a ni'mah, because that's actually the way it should be. It should be something where you're not opening the awam and not opening the community up to fitna. You shouldn't be opening them up to different mukhalafat between mashayikh and between tulab al-ilm and differing. This should not be something we talk about in the saha. You get what I'm saying?
It doesn't benefit them.
It doesn't benefit them, and they don't understand it. These people, I mean, like, it's just not from hikmah aslan. Unless you have some type of agenda you're trying to get through. And this is what leads me to say now that I stayed away from it, because the community it was picking up and starting to get involved in fitna. That's why I had to get the other WhatsApp number, because I also was getting not messages from back here in Saudi, but I was also getting messages from back in the States. And that was starting to irritate me, and it was starting to play on my heart a little bit, because now we had one of the longtime students who was studying here. He's back in Pittsburgh. You get what I'm saying? So now they are a little bit connected somewhat to what might be going on, and, you know, being told, and obviously he's on the other side, and he's obviously pushing what he believes to be correct, and he's pushing it down people's throats who, to me, were close friends. One of them gave me my shahada, one of them was my best friend, you know, and these are people who I was talking to on a daily, but now they're hitting me up about it. They're sitting in our WhatsApp group, they're talking about it, they're discussing it, and I'm on this side, and when I say this side, I mean this side is as far as Saudi Arabia, but also on the side where we're not dealing with it like what's happening locally in an English community, or we're dealing with it in Arabic. And to be honest, wallahi, this is something I told one of the brothers. You know, I said, it's like when I came back that summer and I was hearing different things, and people were telling me, you know, need to take positions, and you know, Sheikh Muhammad did this and Sheikh Fulan did this, and da-da-da-da. And I'm just like, wallahi, it seemed like the Arabic world and the English world are two different worlds. Because something that you're narrating to me, wallahi, I've never heard. And then when I go back and do tathabbut of it, I can't find it. Oh, but Fulan, you know, he said it. This so-and-so person said it, and trust me, and it's just like, oh, it's overwhelming even more. Okay, and by this time I'm probably in Musa Khamis in the kulliyah. So yeah, that's my first big interaction with the fitna, which was like, as a Muslim, it was that one. It played really heavy on me, on my mind, on my heart. You know, on things that I value. You know, again, this is family to me. These are people who I'm going back to. These are people who my connection was through seeking knowledge for myself, but then for them.
Yeah.
You know, so myself for Allah Ta'ala, then for this community.
Yeah. So if you don't mind me actually asking, so how were they to you? Like, was it just a thing where straight away they were told things by other individuals, and then it caused them to see you or treat you in a different way? Or did they actually come to you and actually address you and ask you, you know, is this true what we've heard about you, or is this true what's going on? Can you elaborate? Can you enlighten? How did they deal with you?
Yeah, so in the beginning, it was like, again, it didn't really hit the West that much. It was just starting, and this is when, the whole Sa'afiqa kalam was going around, and you know, I just told the brothers. It was I remember till today. Wallahi, it was in a group we had, a WhatsApp group. Me and two people from admin, who are one of my closest friends at the time. I said, Wallahi, there's a wave of fitna coming. Just buckle up. May Allah protect us. Because I seen it was going to be crazy. I seen it was getting out of hand. There was a lot going on. And this is where, by the fadl of Allah, it pushed me to start looking at, different ahadith and different stories regarding fitna. So how did they treat me? The first year, it was cool. It was more so like you should do this. Should I say it directly of what the situation was, or should I just leave it general like this?
Well, it's up to you, bro. Okay, it's up to you.
Okay, I'll tell you. So they were pretty much telling me like, you should listen to Sheikh Rabia. There was no questions about it. Listen to it, and there's no left or right. Listen to this and go with this, and listen to students who are back in the West who know. So I'm like, okay. At the time, not only am I a student in university, and I'm not saying it to make it seem like I'm somebody, but you have to understand where I'm coming from. Is I'm Sheikh Ali al-Haddadi is my neighbor. I'm living in Hayat Tawiq, and I literally moved there for the Sheikh. So I'm making mulazima of the Sheikh. Like, we're literally traveling from Mecca to Medina to Riyadh together. We're reading books in a car together. I'm driving his car to the university, to different cities with him in the passenger seat. This is who I've made mulazima with. I'm not hearing this from him, this type of rhetoric. Also, I'm studying with Sheikh Adil Mansour. I'm not hearing this rhetoric. Their brothers even wanted me, when it started getting heated, to go to Sheikh Fawzan. I'm sitting with Sheikh Fawzan as well, but he's not dealing with these affairs, But I went to them because they asked me to ask a scholar who's not connected from the Kibar Ulama. I go to Sheikh Fawzan. He's advising me. He doesn't say this kalam. So now when I come back to the West, and this is why I say the worlds are completely different. When I come back to the West, I'm hearing one rhetoric, and it's black and white. Follow this, and this is how you're going to be successful. Otherwise, the brother literally told me that in a message, this is Safina to Nuh. Come back on Safina to Nuh. If you're not following this, meaning the understanding in this position in which they have taken, then you're off the Safina to Nuh. I'm like, okay, this is very strange to me. But with that being said, I'm not getting involved. I will say, honestly, I was involved in the beginning. In the beginning, I was sending messages to the brothers from, Sheikh Muhammad, and, because I didn't see anything in opposition, nor did I see anything that wrong about what he was saying about these particular individuals, or just the principles. I don't think names were even mentioned, actually. This is before that big lecture. He was just talking about principles of how we should be dealing in da'wah. But once I started getting confusing is when other ulama, like Sheikh Rabi', and we know who Sheikh Rabi' is, once he said something different, this is when, me personally, it went over my head, and I said, khalas, I'm not getting involved anymore. And I said, I'm not going to follow up on what's going on, because, again, I told the brothers this is a fitna, and it's going to be getting out of hand. So when that happened, I fell back completely. I even told the brothers, like, I'm sorry for sending you messages about this, because, again, I don't think it was on their level. I don't think it's going to benefit them. I don't think it's connected to them. No matter what side you're on, it wasn't beneficial for the general Muslims. And we're seeing the athar of that right now. The athar of that fitna, we're seeing it right now amongst the people of Ahl Sunnah. We see it. Like, we see people still genuinely confused. We still see people not giving salams to people, and you ask them, they don't really know why they're not giving salams. They just know stay away because Fulan said stay away. You say why? Oh, because he supported Qadhaf. When did he support Qadhaf? Oh, I don't know. Khalas. It just stops there. And it's just like, okay, so you're doing something you don't know without knowledge. I mean, isn't this from the very basics of Asul Thalatha? Aren't you supposed to have knowledge first, then an amal bi, then a da'wah ilay? So this is basic stuff in Salafiyya, basic things that we should not be acting and doing things except that we have knowledge while we're doing it. Now, if you want to follow somebody because you're a muqallid, then you do as you please, But ilzam an-nas, making a restriction upon a person to now be upon that same methodology of you, and you yourself is a muqallid in the mawdu', you are a follower in that particular subject matter, that right there is not from the way to Salaf. And that right there is not from the way that we should be doing things. Because you yourself don't have knowledge. You're protecting yourself by following a statement of a scholar. And you're a muqallid in a mawdu'. I'm not saying muqallid a'ma. I'm not saying a blind follower, but you're a follower to what you feel is safe. And they talk about this in the Usul al-Fiqh. They talk about these different wordings and names with the muqallid and muqallid a'ma, etc. And they say it's actually legitimately okay for you to protect yourself in a situation in which you don't know. فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلَ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. Ask the people of knowledge if you don't know. And you went to somebody who you thought was completely firm in the mawdu', and you took that opinion. No problem. But ilzam an-nas, making people take that opinion now that you yourself are muqallid in, that right there is wrong. That right there is not okay. Because the other person will say, no, I don't see it that way. I talked to Sheikh Fulani. I have the dalil here, Quran and Sunnah, of why we shouldn't do this. And that's it. No. And that doesn't sit well with these individuals. You get what I'm saying? It doesn't, that type of conversation and dialogue, it doesn't sit with them. There is only black and white. You must go this way. And then if you don't go that way, then they attribute all the negative aspects to anybody who's other than them. Anybody who's on that way, on that path, they attribute to you. So now, yes, you support Qadhif. Yes, you call your brothers Sa'ifiqa. Yes, you just now, you embodied the entire scale of wrong in which they had in the fitna to you as a person. We know that people you can't carry the burden of somebody else's wrongs. You can't attribute to me a qawl in which you didn't hear me say. But people ran with it, and where people are still running with it. So this was the biggest thing in the fitna. To be honest, when it first happened, Akhi, it was devastating to me. It was devastating because, I got emotional. I got emotional, and I cried about it. I went about it. Yeah.
I'm just going to stop you right there, Akhi Afwan, just so that we can make this as the first part, and obviously stop for Salat al-Maghrib, Habibi, just so that it doesn't get too long on the viewers. So inshallah we'll stop there, and in 10 minutes بإذن we're going to resume. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. جزاك الله خير أخي, والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
أيا طالب العلم قم لا تنم فإن الزمان انقضى وانصرم فكن ما حييت ضنينا به فظنك بالوقت عين الكرم وكن حلس درسك وافرح به تكن قائدا في غد للأمم وبادر شبابك من قبل أن يقطع عزمك سيف الهرم.